Welcome to Tech Closeup by Mark Albertson.
And I'm Christina King, here at the Tech Museum of Innovation in San Jose, California.
Which just happens to be the capital of the Silicon Valley.
But technology doesn't just happen in the Silicon Valley alone. It happens everywhere.
And that is what Tech Closeup is all about. Today, we'll meet one of the true pioneers of online music and voicemail technologies and find out what new trails he's blazing next.
We'll find out how high-tech tools are shining new light on political voting and campaign contributions.
And we'll see how venture capital is alive and looking for the next big thing.
All of this, plus Fish Wrap, our regular segment on cybersecurity.
And the king of kilobits himself, our very own Rob Enderle, coming up in this edition of Tech Closeup.
This high-tech world was built on startups, small companies led by people with big ideas. But a lot of times those ideas take money, and a lot of it. And that's where the venture capitalist community comes in. We recently took our cameras behind the scenes to some small companies who depend on venture capitalists to make their dreams a reality.
The mating dance of the monarch butterfly. It's a delicate ballet, well practiced over centuries of evolution. Now, the male butterfly circles the female and... Wait a minute! What is this wild kingdom? This is supposed to be a tech show. Oh, I get it. This is our way to help you understand the world of venture capital. Now let's see. A bunch of people gather at a well-known host company. They chew the fat, they demonstrate their products, they give fancy PowerPoint presentations, and voila! Lightning strikes, money rains from the sky, and a new young company is born, all in the name of finding the next big thing. Now, it's not that simple, but it's not far from the truth. In the fast-paced world of high-tech, the entrepreneur's spirit is alive and well at meetings like these and others around the world. It's where dreamers meet kingmakers. But the chances of hitting it big or even getting to a meeting like this are really tough.
And if you're a typical seed stage venture capitalist, you look at between 2,500 and 4,000 business plans every year. You'll maybe meet with 250, 300 of those. You'll maybe end up funding 5 or 6 of those.
Here's a recent case in point. Microsoft drew a capacity crowd to this California conference room where some lucky wannabes got to pitch their new high-tech ideas to venture capital funders. And the origin of this event was almost an accident.
Guy Kawasaki and Bill Ryken and I, those are guys from Garage Technology Ventures, we were having lunch one day.
Guy Kawasaki, now there's a familiar name. His high-tech career goes all the way back to the early days of Apple Computer, when Guy was known as a Macintosh evangelist.
I had worked in the jewelry manufacturing business. I briefly worked in the software business, like 6 months, and then I went into Apple. So on paper, you know, I had a marketing degree, I had a psych degree, I had no computer science, I had barely used an Apple II.
Since those early Apple days, Guy's emerged as a major player in the startup world. When he's not busy jetting around the globe or moderating panel discussions, he leads a new venture of his own, Trumors, an online gossip site where users trade juicy tidbits about anything and everything. It all gives him a front row seat for the sold-out performance known as VC, venture capital, where dreams are born so long as somebody writes the check.
It's easier because there's more money, there's more people who don't want to be left out. You know, it kind of vacillates. You know, you have the fear of doing something stupid and losing money. You have the fear of not investing and being left out. Right now, more people are afraid of that than doing something stupid.
A lot of people look back at 90s, think that was a great time for entrepreneurs. I think there could be no better time than absolutely now.
Now, finding money for your idea might get a little easier, but you still need to know what investors want to see and hear. At one venture fund, where companies like Skype and Hotmail were born, the profits come from a small pool of firms, but the community payback is a whole lot bigger.
We make the bulk of our money, if you will, and returns on only a very small fraction of the startups that we back. And all the rest are building our network, our are feeding the community in some way, shape, or form.
Not everybody's cut out to be the next Steve Jobs. For people like Warren and others who want to invest in high-tech startups, it takes a rugged attitude to prove they've got what it takes.
Entrepreneurs usually have a little bit of that, of kind of an innocence or naivete, because they don't know that there's something that they can't do, and they're just going to go do it. They're going to go change the world, whereas somebody that might have a lot more experience might be a little bit more jaded and say, that can't be done.
No question it's a challenge to start up, but observers like Kawasaki feel it takes more than just cash to launch a big idea.
It requires less money to start a company. You could start a company on 20 grand now that you really couldn't before. So it takes less money, so why not roll the dice?
Take one startup called Bura, an online personalized restaurant review site that was recently featured in Forbes magazine. For startups like Bura, the few minutes they get to mingle and pitch with venture capital funders may yield a lot more than just conversation.
It's not the content mashup, but it's ultimately the business mashup. I've met 3 people here who want to work with us. The competition is kind of a gray area. Everyone wants to help each other out.
Guy Kawasaki's among a growing VC crowd that wants to help seed new high-tech firms. And for them, sometimes the best payoff of all is just the chance to see them get their chance.
At the end of my life, when God says to me, Guy, what did you accomplish in life? I want to be able to say that I empowered entrepreneurs.
YouTube was first funded for $3.5 million in 2005, and it was purchased by Google 1 year later for $1.65 billion. Yeah.
We want to fish wrap to parents. Internet safety is a particularly difficult issue when it comes to children. Well, the folks here at Symantec in Cupertino know all about internet safety, and so does Marianne Merritt, who is the internet safety advocate here at Symantec. How serious is the problem for children?
Well, depending on the age, kids are just naturally curious about what they find on the internet, and they're going to take chances. They're going to go to dangerous neighborhoods that you wouldn't like them to, and they're going to download software. So the question is, Mom and Dad, are you talking to your kids about what you want and don't want them to do?
Well, talking to them, is that enough? What can the parents do about it?
Talking to them is a good start. We really do encourage parents to open a dialogue, to use that 60s phrase, open the dialogue and start talking to your kids about what you expect from them with regard to the computer and the internet. Do you want them to limit the number of hours that they are on the computer? Do you want to limit what sites they are allowed and not allowed to go to? This is just part of parenting, and it's gone high tech.
Now, there's lots of software and security programs out there to give parents an edge. Can you bring up some controls that show what parents can do to protect children?
Well, we really recommend that parents, and for their own safety, use internet security software like Norton Internet Security or Norton 360, because this will really protect you even if you inadvertently get into trouble or download something you really shouldn't. But there are other things you can do. So for example, you can make sure that your browser settings are set to back you up a little by going into the preferences area. And here just in Google, they have something called Safe Search. It can be strict, moderate, or you can turn it off entirely. Mom and Dad, just set it to be strict.
But can't the kids go in and change that?
That's one of the downfalls, right? Kids can go in and change it. So when you're dealing with younger children, this works. If you're dealing with older children and they're trying to get around your controls, yeah, they're gonna go in and change that. So there's third-party software that people can look for, whether it's parental filtering software or other forms of controls, and those can be very helpful as well.
For a lot of kids, they're just home doing homework. They're innocently searching through the internet to do their research, and they accidentally run across something that could be dangerous for them. How common is something like this?
Well, let's take the example of pornography. We really hope that our kids aren't actively looking for that on the web or, running into it. But realistically, kids will encounter some adult material on the internet if you're not using any controls, and even if you are, if the filters aren't set strongly enough, that brings to mind why Mom and Dad need to talk with their kids. What should they do if they run into a site that's not appropriate? If you don't tell them what to do, they may think they've done something wrong and try and hide it from you.
Is there a way for parents to go back in and see where their kids have been surfing?
Absolutely. You can always check your browser history, And make sure you know what browser software is even installed on your computer. You know, if your kids are using Firefox and you're only checking Internet Explorer, you may be missing quite a bit. You can easily check the history in your browser. Here you see it up in the top toolbar, and you click on it, and you can see by date where we've been. Where's the computer set up in your home? I mean, we really encourage people to keep it in a public area, you know, the kitchen, the den, because just knowing that mom and dad might walk through can really stop a lot of risky behavior.
Good advice, considering most of these kids are more computer savvy than their parents.
But it's not that hard for parents to catch up by going on the internet, coming to websites such as norton.com/family resource. We have so much information and educational material to help people stay informed.
Well, you've informed us. Marianne, thank you. That's a real good Tech Close-Up fish wrap. Okay, what is Java?
Java is a programming language.
Programming. You want to know exactly what it means?
Sure.
Okay, when we come right back, we'll tell you.
I'm tall enough to reach the monkey bars. I can reach anything on the counter, even things you think I can't. I can understand everything you S-P-E-L. I'm the tallest kid in my class. I'm getting pretty big. But to help me survive a car crash, I still need you to give me a boost.
Until they're 4'9", use a booster seat in the car and don't let them down.
So, you know what Java is right now?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us what it is?
It's a network-friendly programming language that was invented by Sun Microsystems.
The man's got it right. How about that? Thank you.
Who funds our politicians? Where does all that money come from anyway? It's a question a lot of people ask, especially around election time. Well, finally, there's a company that's taken public records, put them into a software program, and shed new light on this bizarre world of campaign finance. Come take a tour with us of maplight.org.
Ask anybody tied to politics or campaigns, and they'll tell you it takes a lot of money to run for office and even more to stay there. But nobody's ever found a way to track the daily contributions to politicians and how they may affect their day-to-day votes. At least, until now.
Maplight.org, this is Sean.
At a small office in Berkeley, California, a dedicated team searches through public records and online databases to chart who gives money to whom. The results raise some eyebrows.
I developed Maplight.org to make it more specific about how money in politics affects the individual issues people care about.
Meet Dan Newman, Executive Director of Maplight.org, a nonprofit funded by private donations and grants. His background in technology and politics led him to build a business that shines light on the darker corners of campaign finance.
And so I developed Maplight.org to make the specific connections to bring in the actual money and the actual votes so people can see this connection for themselves.
That connection represents more than just a few private contributions. The business of politics is money, big money, and for some, that's a problem that needs fixing.
The system seems fundamentally broken. The United States is supposed to be a democracy by the people and for the people. We're supposed to be the role models for the rest of the world. But I feel like we have become a government that's on the verge of being for sale to the highest bidder.
What Newman and others tracked in both the California State Legislature and the U.S. Congress is a suspicious pattern of donations followed by votes that favor the givers, a pattern that suggests money really does talk.
On July 20th, he voted in favor of this trade bill like the chemical companies wanted. If we click on this green bar, we find out that on July 19th, just one day before, he received $1,000 associated with Lyondell Chemical, a chemical company.
Well, I think this is really the first time that transparency is available for everyone to see at the click of a mouse.
Now, the research might sound like food for cynical thought, but the fact is, there's no law against giving money to an elected official.
We don't actually pick on or target individual legislators. We're more interested in showing systemically how the money and politics system distorts the issues that people care about.
It's unfair to just call all the politicians evil and they sold out to money, because our system really, right now requires that you have to raise that much money to even be in the game.
And being in this game is not for the faint of heart. To run for office these days, even for a seat in a state legislature, it takes a staggering amount of money.
To be significantly competitive, it's going to be minimal of $1 million. In my state Senate race now, we know we need to raise about $1.5 million, and I could be outspent even at that.
Mark Leno is a veteran California assemblyman from San Francisco, so he's no stranger to the fundraising game.
Voters would be appalled if they knew how much time their office holder has to spend on the telephone making phone calls to raise the money that's going to be necessary to be able to stay in that office or to aspire to a higher office.
To better understand how a website like MapLights might affect an elected official, Tech Closeup looked at what it wrote about Leno's donor and vote connection. He answered with some blunt political candor.
Now I'm at the top of my contributor list. One sees attorneys. Now we know that attorneys poll very low, in fact, oftentimes even lower than politicians in many polls. So that may not bode well for me. But then on right underneath attorneys, you see firefighters. Firefighters poll with the most respect with voters. So contradictory information there. I'm either a very good guy or I'm a very bad guy, depending upon how you interpret that.
Leno thinks MapLight's website proves it's time for campaign finance reform. He's introduced a bill in California to change the way money and politics mix. He's got a lot of opposition, which raises concern that politicians will always follow the money.
Now, there are a few renegades out there who do the opposite. They take money from campaign contributors and then they vote against their interests. You can see that in the database too. But for the majority of the cases, you are seeing that the politicians are voting in lockstep with the interests that give them the most money.
All the more reason why the technology advances of free online databases like maplight.org may grow a grassroots movement all its own.
Sunlight is said to be the best of disinfectant, and we're shining on the light of on something that already existed. And if that makes citizens angry, if it makes them want to take action, if it makes them want to call their legislators, if it makes them want to vote a different way, well, all the better, because we show what's really happening on a factual basis.
Well, what do we have here? The leading candidates in the 2008 presidential race are raising over $300,000 per day, every day. Now, why can't I do that?
Oh, it's a beautiful day in the Silicon Valley, and we're fast forwarding today to the future of cell phones. I'm with Rob Enderle on his back deck in beautiful San Jose, and you've got some treats to show me on what's coming up, but let's start with what was then, which is what I have, the Palm Pilot.
This is the Palm Trio, actually. It's got the built-in keyboard. This is kind of the original gold standard with regard to text phones. You've got the keyboard you can type. This is the current generation. It has the Windows operating system on it. It'll do video, it'll do music, do all the things you probably won't do on this phone, because primarily the people who have this thing, they're just doing email. This is an email machine.
And this one is a little bit chunkier and a little bit heavier.
This is the highest rated current HTC Windows mobile phone. This has a built-in keyboard down here, so you can actually type quite a bit more. Much bigger screen for video. This is kind of, if you want it all and you want a personal defense weapon, because, well, you hit somebody with this puppy, it's going to knock them out. It could hurt.
Now, this is like a BlackBerry then, huh?
Very much like a BlackBerry. In fact, these all chase the BlackBerry. I don't have a BlackBerry with me. But this is very much like that in terms of capability. A big phone, a lot of battery life, though.
How much does that cost?
Each one of these things with a 2-year commit is around $200. So it's not bad.
All right, that's not bad. Okay.
Now we drop down a little bit. This is the Motorola Q. This was their high-tech phone. Notice how sleek, how thin it is. It also has the keyboard, so you're living in Texas. This will also do pictures, will also do videos, but a much smaller screen, much simpler and much cheaper. You can actually find this with a 2-year commit for around $100.
Oh, wow, you're kidding.
One thing is, it's not a lot of battery life. It's very narrow, very thin.
So I could live with that for $100.
Yeah, $100, but you can also get an extended battery for it. So double the battery life with an extended battery, and you can live with it. They all have cameras on them.
Okay, and again, the name of that is,
Motorola Q.
Motorola Q, okay. Now Samsung has come out with.
Now moving forward into time, this is probably the most current of this particular form factor. Even smaller, held up against the Q, see how much smaller it is? Decent battery life, even without the extended battery. Better camera, also around $100 with service. a smaller keyboard, but it's certainly workable. Some folks can't live with the fact that for the numbers, if you look here, you've got numbers here, here, and here instead of next to each other. It takes a little getting used to.
That would bother me.
But it's not bad. Also pretty quick with regard to texting.
Well, and you know my line. If it's $100, I can live with that.
$100 is good. So
And
now we get back
finally
to
we got-
expensive. So we had Apple launched the iPhone. HTC, the company we've been kind of looking at all through here, saw the iPhone, said it must be nice, ran this thing through about 6 months. This is their version of the iPhone.
Now,
so it's no keyboard, all screen, movies, pictures, a bit more expensive. This one's going to cost you about $500, but no 2-year commit. So this you can use with $500. You can use this with any service that you want. What it has that the iPhone doesn't have is it has a removable battery on it, because these things run through battery like nobody's business. And so what you don't want is you don't want a dead phone.
So you can you store just tons and tons of movies on there?
Tons of stuff. Yeah, it's actually on the side here. It's got a place where you can put a memory card. I won't pop it out, but a memory card in here. You can put a 2 gigabyte memory card in there, and so you can put your movies on one card, your music on another one, slam them in.
All right, so if anyone wants to find out more about all the phones that are on the market today, what would work best with your budget and with your needs specifically, just go to techcloseup.com. Rob, thanks so much. This has been Fast Forward.
What's a pop?
What's a pop? I don't know.
You don't know what a pop is. You want to know what a pop is?
Wait, don't they call soda?
That's, I suppose, close. We could give you a real definition of pop when we come right back.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
So now, if somebody says, what's a pop to you? What's your answer?
City or location where the network can be connected.
Great, you got it right. We sure take our technologies for granted these days, but where would we be without cell phones or voicemail? Not long ago, we met the guy who co-invented voicemail and built the largest music database in the world. You may not recognize his name, but you sure know his technologies. Well, now, come on and meet Scott Jones.
You have one new voice message.
If you've ever used voicemail, called up a song on iTunes, or searched the web, there's one guy who's responsible for bringing much of this technology to our daily lives. His name, Scott Jones. Now, you wouldn't recognize him next to Bill Gates or Steve Wozniak. He doesn't have flashy hobbies like Oracle's Larry Ellison. But for over 20 years, Scott Jones has been at the forefront of high tech that's had a major impact on what we do with technology and how we do it. He grew up in the Midwest, went to college at MIT, where he hooked up with some folks who had a novel idea about the way telephones should work.
Why do you need a busy signal? You should either get the person you're trying to call, or you should be able to leave them a message.
All those annoying busy signals led to the creation of Boston Technology, and in 1988, with some very basic high-tech tools, Scott and his young team delivered the world's first voicemail system.
I figured out how to record sound and voice using an Apple II that wasn't really, at that time, built to do such a thing. Because of that knowledge I had accumulated during my university years at MIT and at Indiana University, I was able to figure out a path that could run circles around the big guys in telecom.
Jones cashed out of Boston Technology, grabbed his millions, and launched the search for the next fun idea. He found it in the rapidly expanding world of online music.
We are the technology that allows iTunes to know what music is playing. What CD did you put in? Even if it is a new CD that just got pressed last week.
The company that makes all this possible is called GraceNote, and since its start in 1996, it's built the largest searchable database of music in the world.
We have the capacity to scale this thing up for as much music as mankind is going to create.
And that translates into a website with 1.3 billion hits a day, over 200 million registered users, and 78 million music tracks. Is it possible that even the Pope logs on for his tunes?
We even have seen actual traffic from users in the Vatican who are playing Van Halen, I might add.
What makes GraceNote so popular is how the website searches up a song. You just type in a few words of the lyrics. And if you're really stumped and can't remember that tune, you just play a few bars over the internet, and the computer comes right back with the name.
Take the phone, hold it up in any room where there's audio playing, a bar, a club, in a car, or from your TV set, or in a movie theater. Be careful holding it up in a movie theater. And identify the sound that's actually playing. It'll actually tell you what the song is. You hold it up, it samples 10 seconds of the audio in the room, sends it off to our server. We analyze it, and we actually come back and tell you what the song is, who it was written by.
Fresh off his success in the online music world, Jones is taking a new approach to a common problem: how to find what you want on the web.
Gardening tulips, or NCAA basketball, or breast cancer, or whatever the topic is, be able to connect with people who know where to find the good stuff, and then connect me to it very quickly. And so that was really the genesis of the idea of Cha-Cha.
Named after the Chinese word for search, Cha-Cha puts the human element back in the web. It instantly tosses your search query to one of 30,000 live experts who know where to find what you're looking for in the massive databases of the world.
At the tone, please record your message.
Along with voicemail and online music, Jones also dabbles in robotic cars, and in 2005, he took on a challenge to design a vehicle that traveled 100 miles through a course in the Mojave Desert with no driver. Instead, with multiple onboard laptop computers at the wheel, his robotic team found an unusual way to test their driverless creation.
That the programmers did for their code was to stand in the road and then have this 6,000-pound Jeep Rubicon drive autonomously, detect them, and drive around them. So I don't know many software code tests that are as good as that one.
The car finished out of the running, but Jones used what he learned to design yet another business, one that might actually mow your lawn while you relax in the shade. In the world of music, a grace note is that extra note that an artist throws in, and for Scott Jones, it's those additional challenges that keep him coming back for more.
Well, I love to solve problems that make a difference in people's lives, change the world.
You have 39 messages.
The first iTunes player was introduced at Macworld in San Francisco in January of 2001. Yeah.
Hey, if you've got a technology or science story out there you'd like to share with us, well then send us your feedback.
Log on to techcloseup.com.
Thanks for joining us. Hey, I'm Mark Levinson.
I'm Christina King. Remember, if you want to stay close to the technology that drives this world we live in,
well then join us next time for another edition of Tech Closeup.